All right, we're going to be going live here. I got Bianca coming on in a minute. Miss Numismatics. I've known her for a couple of years now. Time flies, and she's taught me so much. We're going to talk about money, precious metals. We're going to talk about the history of money, the history of precious metals, what's happening today, what you can do, and also where we're headed, what's happening in the world affairs. So this person is one of the most knowledgeable people that I've ever come across when it comes to financial literacy in a lens that not many people talk about today. And that's precious metals here. So I'm going to give her a minute to pop on. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for popping on. You might want to take a little piece of paper out. You might want to get some notes going. By the end of this hour flow, we're going to cover a lot of bases. So I'm excited. It's actually been a minute since I've had someone on my Instagram live. Usually I'm popping on other people's pages. So I'm going to be doing more of this. Would love your feedback. We will post this as soon as we're done. I will post it on my page so you can share it, rewatch it a few times, and you're gonna take away a lot, guys. This is what it's at. Remember, financial wealth is not determined by the money you make. It's the knowledge that you have on how money works, how it's made, how it's exchanged, how it moves, how to invest, save, when, who, what, where, when, why, and so forth. So let's see if Bianca's on here. We're going to bring her on up, and you guys can follow her. It's at Miss Numismatics. At Miss Numismatics. And to pop on, just send me a request. I don't know if I see her yet. And what you guys can do in the meantime is, as we're flowing here, there's that question box down below. Type in your questions. We're going to get to as many as we can at the end. Okay, we're going to get to as many as we can at the end. All right, let me see here. We're going to add. So there's a little question box down below. Let's see, Bianca can go ahead and request to join. You can throw that request. And there's a question box. So anything related to precious metals, anything related to financial literacy, anything related to, we'll even, briefly, barely touch on crypto and the future of cryptocurrency and so forth. And then if you guys have questions on anything, we're going to make it happen. So let me pull her up right here. Let's give it a sec. All right, we're good. Success. There we go. Live action.
See me?
Yes. What's up? How we doing? All right, everybody in the comments say hello to the Silver Surfer, Silver Santa, whatever name you give yourself these days.
All of it.
I was just hyping you up in terms of you're one of the most knowledgeable people I've come across, and in far as learning on how to protect my assets, me and Jilly and our community, and how to protect our wealth. And it's a treat. It's an honor that you get to share. And I want to let you guys know, you guys can follow her before we get started at Miss Numismatics. And you also have your website, right? Millennial Metals, and you have your Discord group.
Yes.
I'll let you share just really quick, just who you are, where people can find you, and then we'll also recap that at the end as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to definitely be mindful as I can to the comments. I usually just, especially with us, we're going to rattle off that I forget to look at, people's comments, what people are saying. So definitely going to check in there. But yeah, hi everyone. I'm Miss Numismatics. Bianca is my name, really. But yeah, Queen of Gold and Silver. As far as plugging websites and where to find me, on Instagram, it's at Miss Numismatics, MSNUMISMATIX. Boom, Chris just plugged it. And then yes, website is www.missnumismatics.com. Millennial Metals Discord. Yeah, just a great place to meet like-minded people who are focused on precious metals, commodities, as well as everything going on in finance in general. So yeah, great thing we're building there. And yeah, just happy to be here. I think it's a long time coming between us. And yeah, I just felt like it was kind of time with everything that's going on, kind of signals firing off across the world. Kind of drop in on the metal.
I love it. So you guys can see her @handle right there. Go to her page, check out her site. She's got a Discord group, a YouTube channel, amazing stuff. And we're going to cover a lot. And then, like I said, for those that have questions, if you type it in the comment box, we may miss it because we're just going to be going back and forth. If you have a question, go to the question box, and then we'll save like 5 or 10 minutes at the end of this, and we'll make sure to get as many of y'all's questions answered. Because usually when you share the amount of information we'll share in about 45 minutes, you may miss something, you might get a little lost or overwhelmed. Reminder, slow down, take a breath. You're not here to learn everything at once and be an expert. These are baby steps, just little coins to your big wealth of savings that you have internally. First thing I want to ask you, just in case so people really get to know you, is how did you even get involved with having a passion for metals, a passion for looking outside of the system we've been taught to believe is true with the fiat currency system? Just you personally, how did you get into that? If you want to start with that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think I talk about it enough. So I've really been around gold and silver all of my life. My mom was a jeweler, all of me growing up. So I've helped her even tinker around making jewelry. So I've touched it before. Definitely love and respect for it. But I've been a tomboy all of my life. I wasn't really super into jewelry. So it wasn't really my thing as far as at least the jewelry and accessory aspect of it. Kind of around 2019, 2020, I kind of joked that all of the world was sent to their rooms, with lockdowns and things like that. So that's kind of when I really, fell down a few rabbit holes between Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey, a bunch of financial gurus. And then, of course, my most favorite, Mike Maloney. And every guy that he has on his, on his series is just home run hitter. So yeah, I fell down, a couple rabbit holes, books, that touched on the financial history, right? The Creature of Jekyll Island, right? These bankster families. And it really started with little signals, right? When the U.S. Mint and then like businesses even started saying that there was a coin shortage going on. Of course, everyone was going cashless. So there was this big change, right? In conducting commerce and transactions that was going on. Pretty abruptly, all of a sudden it was just, easy to go to the plastic because we're pretty used to paying with cards, debit, credit, what have you. But I think that's how it, that's by design, right?
Yeah.
That's how governments kind of phase out quietly, subtly, currencies and autonomies even. I think a way that we talk about all the time, right? Currency is a way to move about the cabin, right? There've been a couple of conservative pundits who've had their like Wells Fargo accounts frozen or shut down. Wells Fargo doesn't claim it's because of political affiliation or right because they don't think the right thing, but we kind of know deep down, right, that there have been targets, censorship of conservative and very specific side of thinking, so to speak. So,
yeah. Okay. So what you're saying, guys, too, is not many people are privy to thinking gold and silver, right? We grew up with this stuff, right? Pieces of paper, these cards that we have that we swipe. Now it's crypto, digital. It's really, we have gotten away from a physical. Many people think this is the physical. Yet, as you guys know, and we'll go into the history a little bit about money. Of Jekyll Island and what the heck is that and what these actually are, right? This is not necessarily a store of value. Money and currency are two different things. And before I forget too, you mentioned Mike Maloney. Bianca showed me this, guys, and write this down. Like if you're smart as a student and you're on this to learn, not just be entertained, you completely are putting yourself in a different mindset. Write down on YouTube, Mike Maloney, Hidden Secrets of Money, parts 1 through 10. If you can watch those 10 YouTube videos, and Bianca can agree, your financial literacy will be in the elite level of this planet. And it's completely free. It's been out for years. We share with our weight community. She shared it to me. I watched the first episode. I was just absolutely dumbfounded. I thought I knew about money. I had no clue what the heck I was even talking about. And that's the missing piece in what's happening in the world, is this ability to have financial literacy. So it's a 10-part series. And that's why, guys, the things that Bianca is going to explain to you in terms of the history, which we're going to dive into first, this will sound like a foreign language because you're not going to the gas station and giving them a a minted silver coin to get your gas. Okay, this is
And
not.
people just get mad at me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, you want me to have it, but I'm not allowed to use it. And they're like, I don't understand.
And it's such a bind because we forget store of value. We forget these monetary terms that you're not taught in school. The Rockefeller education does not preach on this. You've got to literally do your own financial education. And when more people do this, we literally are creating this new system. The new system is here. It's ready. It's been here. We just got to get enough people. So let me throw it back to you. Share just as best you can. Like, let's just go back in time. Like maybe not only last 50 years, 100 years, because this goes way far, guys. You're talking like Napoleon. You're talking Roman Empire. We won't have to go that far. We won't have to go that far. Let's just go back to, let's say, like 1933 or just within the 1900s of just something that people can tangibly break down as far as the Fed, central banks, currency, and so forth. So yeah, give us a little insight on what you know on that.
Yeah, so as far as just dates go, right, so the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, and then shortly after, right, 1933, people don't remember, that's right after the Great Depression, right? First it was the Roaring 20s, right? Stock market boom, real estate boom, everything was booming, and then the Great Depression, right? So it's kind of exactly the moment we're living through today, right? We just saw a huge influx of cash, right? Whether it's a digital zero that was added to people's bank accounts, I kind of joke, some people went to sleep with 1,000, you woke up with 10,000, right? Yep. That just happened in 2020. I think it's a global moment. I don't think the government will ever do that again. And of course, essentially it's the U.S. Population kind of cashing in on every tax we've paid, right? If we put it that way, they haven't even touched the half of what they owe us, really, right? But granted, what we have to pay attention to, I think, is, the numbers on the docket, right? So, fast forward to the meeting of Jekyll Island, right? This is, in a very short summary, it's one of the most powerful banker families of the world, right? Rockefellers, obviously the Rothschilds, boom, the English octopus, right? So this is really, we are kind of a byproduct of Britain. Bank of England is the big, that is the bank that we kind of are beholden to, essentially, like Rome 2.0, beholden to the crown. So yes, this is kind of, that's why the Queen dying even is another huge moment. So, what a time to be alive that we're witnessing these, these incredible, like, moments in history happening that, to me are really signals that we are, really in the moment that we can harness the future. We can harness, how comfortable we are, how secure we are, and, how Mike Maloney likes to say, the greatest transfer of wealth in human history, right, is happening literally right now. So, I mean, yes, it all started with the Federal Reserve, right? That's when taxation really, truly came to fruition, right? Because before that, banks used to hold gold, silver, right? These were banks of deposit. Yeah, you had to, you physically, this is when a lot of trust was established, though, right? We trusted that our government, these financial institutions weren't ever going to pull the rug from us, right? This is kind of when checks and balances, were still true, right? What would happen if the banks ever rug pulled or kept the gold or took your gold? You'd have a riot, right? So now, right, that's kind of why the paper money came to be, right? Essentially, it's like a claim check, right? Instead of everyone lugging around gold and silver, or necessarily, holding it in the banks, right? They instituted a new way for people to transact.
Like an IOU.
Exactly.
Glorified IOU.
And even, 1980s, 1960s, 1950s paper notes were still a little bit more, they were more backed than the paper that we have today, right? Mm-hmm. This is the great lie that, the government, these banks, their families, they're brilliant. I do tip my hat off to them because they're brilliant at executing the evil. But the lie is, right, the paper, even the note looks the same, right? There used to be a note that was backed by silver, redeemable by gold, right?
Yep.
Same face, same color, right? Same markings, but right, the asset behind it, the value behind it is different, right? And by the time we were born, 1980s, 1990s, we've been far gone, detached from any asset of value. Our currency, right? Our money, being backed by anything of true value, right? And we see that, I think, manifesting in quality of life, right? I was even just on the call earlier. I talk about my own parents, right? In 1999, 2000, 2001, they were able to buy a house in Burbank, right, at 33 for like $300,000, right? Today, that same house, like $2 million.
Yep.
So something, right? I'm the same age my parents, right, as my parents were when they bought their house. But what is attainable is just so completely far gone, right? So, so detached, so inflated, right? So, the reason why I definitely, I talk about money, I do these interviews, I love to engage, right, in the discourse about this, is because, we have to, I think decipher, a lot of people can't even see the lies, right, between
Yeah.
paper money and even assets, right? Our house is really, millions and millions of dollars, or is the money, right, so imbalanced, so, detached from reality, printed into oblivion.
Yep.
Right, that these $20 million in LA, it's just ridiculous. So
yeah, so it's like they inflate a balloon, and then eventually the balloon gets too big, it pops.
it recalibrates.
It recalibrates.
It's just a math equation, right? We always, I feel like, seek equilibrium somewhere, right? And as these are the banker games that they pulling levers, tipping scales, certain places to influence certain things. And right, this is why I feel like metals are so critical. It's such a linchpin, to the financial system, because it's tangible. They can't lie about it. The beauty, right? You and I can get together. Everyone can get together. We can count our ounces together, and no one can lie about it anymore, right? So it's the ultimate check. There's a reason why the government hates our physical ownership of gold and silver, right? So much wealth can disappear from their eyes.
Yep.
So much private transactions can be, how do you charge tax, sales tax, income tax on a transaction, conducted in gold and silver? Very hard, right? How do you exert inheritance tax? If I just bury my gold, and I leave my kids a map that says dig here, where's the inheritance tax, right? So there's a reason why the government, the Fed, the banking families desperately wanted to detach us from, the true assets.
The truth. The truth about, like, this is money. This is one thing to note, guys. This is money. This is currency. It's like, what's the difference, right? What is the difference? Money and currency, right? Tangible, fungible. You can't manipulate it. It's real. It's an actual physical element, so to speak. And I always thought it was interesting that gold and silver is God's money. That's what they talk about, God's money. And that gold and silver doesn't oxidize, like it doesn't erode, like it doesn't break down. Like it's so strong. It's been here for centuries, millennia. And that's why I said, you guys, this goes so far back, and you'll learn that in the Hidden Secrets of Money. And then another thing you mentioned, which is important that for people to hear this, is the word cycles. These cycles happen. Like, this is not like, oh, something brand new. For many of you on here, this may be brand new. For someone who's 50, 60, 70, that's lived this multiple times, like, oh yeah, we're prepared. Like, no, we don't, we get prepared. And you're seeing younger generations or mid generations that are relying heavily on the stock market or certain bonds and treasuries, when really, guys, it's propped up by a dollar. And then people will say, well, the dollar's propped up by our economy, right? By our military, by our GDP and all these things. And it's actually quite contrary. It's backed by nothing. It's backed by a belief. And there's another, I'm sure you've seen it, Ray Dalio. He talks about the cycles every 40 or 36 years or 8 years. History repeats itself, guys. And until we learn as a society, as humanity, it's the lessons are just going to get bigger and louder, right? Bigger and louder, bigger and louder, bigger and louder, bigger and louder. So what I want to ask you next too, let's say now in terms of, so that was a little back history of how we got here, right? They took us away. Can you touch on a little bit on what happened in 1971 before we go into the present moment with President Nixon? This guys, this is not too long ago. Like many of you may not have been born yet. Your parents were, your grandparents for sure were. This is recent. That's why we always say this is like a blink of an eye is like the time that we're living in compared to, like, imagine blinking one time in a year. That's how fast these things have happened. So yeah, can you elaborate what happened in maybe 1971 and what transpired? And I'll also share a little bit on that too, because I dove into it recently, and that's why I reached out to you. I shared that video with you because this guy put it all together, and I was like, this is right up your alley. So can you elaborate on what happened just about 50 years ago?
So 1971, Nixon, right? So the history really is essentially the U.S. gets into wars, right, that it can't afford, and that's when over expenditures. That's when we essentially need to print to fund the war. Great excuse to fund the military. 1975 was when we officially decoupled from the gold standard, right? So I think what was happening was France especially caught on, right? So there was a redeemability window. I believe it's like $35 for an ounce of gold in 1970. And you know, I believe it's like bonds. Like the U.S. was borrowing too much money, so we were printing, overprinting. I believe it was also had to do a little bit with the Vietnam War. We got our, we came home licking our wounds. Let's just say that, right? A war that was expensive, that we didn't have any business being in, that, of course, caused us to run at a deficit. And so, yeah, France, I think, was the first to catch on that, the dollar was becoming debased, devalued, right? We were printing too many. And so they were the first to really start to come and hoard, right? They buy out our gold. So they started emptying our banks, and then, the world kind of caught on. And that's when Nixon, on national television was like, we're going to close the redeemability window on gold.
Quietly. Didn't he do it quietly during a commercial or something and nobody saw? Like, it was just during a commercial. That from what I read and saw. But it's just crazy. One of the biggest announcements.
Very quick public service announcement.
Yeah, just that, hey, in between, Martha Stewart's cooking, whatever show was on, it's just, hey, we're being taken off gold, by the way, and we're going back to fiat as a GCR or a GRC, which is a global reserve currency. Yes. One of the biggest announcements that ever happened that 1% of the planet never even heard of and still don't even know of today.
Right. And that's what an incredible moment that so many young people, right? Like we care, today, because I feel like whoever was 30 years old in 1975 obviously didn't know, financial education, were oblivious to what was really going on, which is how, it was allowed to happen.
Yep.
I feel like, right, JFK was the one before him who really tried to, free us from the slavery, the fiat slavery. And yeah, that's, 64 is when they removed silver out of the circulating currency. Right after.
But was that when, because then people will say, well, Bianca, I trade silver. I trade, like, I know you're really big on this, and it makes your waters boil. Tell people the difference of, like, got from this and like a certificate or the gold trading, which this is where they manipulate. They take this and then they make it into this. Then it's on digital though, right? Yes. Then it's on digital. So break that down. What's the difference between like a silver paper or like an IOU silver and actual
a silver certificate?
Silver certificate.
Exactly. So these companies are companies on the stock market like SLV, GLD, right? That's paper silver, paper gold, contracts on the COMEX essentially. Right. So, I liken it to, JP Morgan is one of the biggest banks involved in metals, obviously specifically silver, very much in cahoots with the COMEX, right? They're the number one buyers of silver on the market, really. And, essentially it's, 2 JP Morgan computers that can do 1 billion trades of silver at $18 an ounce, right? So you and I, people who are actually physical people who are trading are no match for two computers that can do 2 billion trades in a second.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone in this world, right, silver squeeze community, precious metals enthusiasts, right, we've kind of caught on to the sham, right? We think that silver is way over leveraged. There's a huge float of paper silver to physical, right? And that the prices aren't true, they aren't real, and there will be a price realization soon, right? That's kind of the bow that we're watching being pulled back. So yeah, one stat that I have here, I've quite a lot on silver, but it's the amount of 175 paper ounces are being traded to silver, to each physical silver ounce.
So 1 ounce of physical silver is being traded, is being traded 175.
Yes, they're saying there's 175 essentially, but they're trading the same ounce.
Wow.
Right? So that's what happened with the silver squeeze movement, right? In March 2020, I believe, was like when it really started. And you know, the idea is we're draining physical ounces off of the COMEX, right? The actual commodities exchange, right? The big warehouses where silver ore and silver bars are stored. That's what, you know, everyone buying physical silver now is rushing to empty out, right? We're accelerating. There's no, this is it. You know, to us, like, we're accelerating the defaults, essentially, right?
What did you say? I mean, cut you off. What did you say? March 2020. What happened?
That's when, like, officially, maybe March or April of 2020 was when, like, the silver squeeze movement showed up on 4chan, right? Wall Street Bets, even.
Right. So you guys all remember what happened that month, right? We won't say it, but you guys, what happened? And also, for those that don't know, and I believe I mentioned this to you, there was the CARES Act. Right, you know, the whole word. I'm not even gonna say it. I've learned 10 months of being banned. The act, the Relief Act. And what had happened was, apparently, and there's videos on it, literature you can look up, is the president at the time, which I won't even say that because that triggers people. So the guy, an orange guy, literally, he actually dissolved or merged the Federal Reserve with the Treasury. And I feel when that merge happened quietly with the pass, that initiated these channels to start saying, hey, get the silver because we're going back to gold. Yes. Right? We're going back to gold. We're going back to silver. And one other thing too, which is important to know, is, guys, this is another term for this. What's one of the biggest issues people are having in the economy today? When they go to the gas station and fill up their gas, people are losing their minds because oil is so high. So apparently, from that podcast that Robert Kiyosaki did recently, and then I dove into it, just 3 years after 1971 and 1974, Henry Kissinger made a trip to Saudi Arabia. What's also funny is, as soon as Trump won, I said it, as soon as he won, the next year he did a global tour, and the first stop was where? Saudi Arabia. Because they went to Saudi Arabia and they made a deal that our dark military, because we have two lenses, guys. We have a government and we have a shadow government. Okay, I'm going to stop there. They made an agreement that our military would protect all of their oil in exchange for making the dollar, the fiat dollar, not the U.S. Treasury note, not the gold-backed dollar, their #1 currency that they will use. When that agreement happened, the ripple effect transmuted out into the world. Every country, if they wanted to operate using oil as energy, because we don't have all this Tesla tech yet. It's there. It's not out yet. In order to use oil around the world, they had to adopt the petrodollar. So the petrodollar, it's a term you're never going to hear because they don't want you to discover the secrets behind it. But basically, how this piece of paper got so powerful is because every country had to join or get lost or get broke, right? And if you didn't join, like Gaddafi or Libya, those places, if you didn't join because you wanted to go back to this,
be liberated.
That was it, right? Be liberated. It's out. It's war. Your mainstream media takes you as a bad guy, and everything is so manipulated just because of control in that.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure you guys know that important piece of history that's left out in textbooks and Rockefeller education is that there was a time, as soon as we got off gold, that the world had to surrender to it quietly because of an alliance, Saudi Arabia, which was infiltrated by evil at their highest level, made with our government to protect the petrodollar and their oil with our military, and that's how they really control the world.
They get the American. We are going to point the gun at everyone in the world, and we're going to say, "You're going to use this, right?
Yep.
You're using the
Yep.
dollar, right?"
Yep.
That's what happened.
And right there, what they said in the comments to CK, exactly. Also made them invest their oil profits into U.S. stock market in dollars. That's now how you manipulate the stock market too. It's sick, guys. That's what I'm saying. This Great Awakening is about money and control more than anything else you can even imagine.
Right.
Absolutely
And what a
crazy.
great trick for us, right? What a great trick for us. We export our paper, and what do we get? Cars, appliances, technology, right?
The American dream. The American dream.
So, you know, it's a crazy thing. There's a little bit of that survivor's guilt being American, because we did that. We created this stage right here that we're living through right now, right? I do believe we're going to follow the sock. Like, we created the hamper that all the towels are in. We're the cleanest one, you know. Thankfully, it doesn't bode well for, right? Like, let's say China. What's going on? Like, the things that are going on right now, as far as even just infrastructure, are wild. It's supposed to be like one of the richest, where so many, you know, everyone in China can be a millionaire, you know. But what they've done is printed 80x, right? Yep. America's printed 18x. China's printed 80x. So it's just it's astronomical what people how people got carried away with the C word, with that with the time, with the era, printing it's 1999.
Exactly.
You know, it's the whole party, and they haven't stopped. You know, Biden's printed more in 2 years than Trump and Obama.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so it's wild what's going on, and I firmly point to history, right? People don't, gold and silver are the sleepers.
Yep.
They're like our grandparents.
Yep.
Our grandparents, you know, like asset.
They are.
I love that the movement it feels young, right? There's a lot of millennials in it, a lot of young people, and yeah, it's starting to feel like it's the cool place to be, you know, and what a great thing, because it's financial, you know, education. It's our harnessing our wealth, truly.
Absolutely.
But yeah, right, gold and silver the sleeper. Typically, right, in crashes, gold doubles, silver triples.
Say that again. Say that again. Guys, in crashes, which, if you haven't paid attention, our economy, it depends who you're listening to, everything is in free fall. And they're realizing like there's no parachutes.
It's that 1920, it's the roaring 20s. We literally are living it again, just a century later. We just lived through the roaring 20s, where there was so much cash flow everywhere. Stocks, boom,
Bitcoin pump, land pump, crypto pumping, everything pumping. Millionaire NFTs going for 2.7 million, right?
And now we're seeing the constriction, right? That velocity, we're seeing it, right? Tightening the belt a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah,
it's like it's the hangover after the party last night.
Yes.
Guys, the party was 100 years ago, what she's saying, and today we are literally waking up and we're hungover as shit.
Right.
And then the people that are hydrated, though, right? Pun intended. People that are hydrated, are not going to be as hungover. That's a simple way to put it. Okay, so if you're feeling anxious, get hydrated in terms of what she's talking about, because future will prove the past and history repeats itself. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In 2008, right, typically gold doubles, silver triples. In 2008, gold almost tripled, silver almost quadrupled. Right. We printed $4 trillion to get out of that. In 2020, there's been 14 trillion printed in 1 year. We printed what U.S.
Say that again. I'm stopping you. We're gonna clip all this stuff. Say that again,
so
guys.
In 2008,
more money's been printed in the last 3 years, right, than humanity? Say it again. Say that again.
Yes.
Say that again.
So in the last 2 years, coming on 3 years, right, since 2020, more money's been printed than we typically usually print in 1 century. Like in 100 years, more money than printed than in really like a year and a half, 2 years. But in 2008, right, to bail banks out, the Fed promised our life force to the tune of $4 trillion to bail who was it? Lehman Brothers, right? All these big banks that don't exist anymore out, right? They said, we're never going to do that again. But now banks just bail in. We've become essentially unsecured creditors. So what does a bail-in mean? If a
Mm.
bank defaults, let's say Chase, Wells Fargo, if a bank defaults, they're not going to seek the federal, the federal government. They're just going to take from within. So they're just like, oh, these are our assets. That's your $100,000. Actually, we need that to to stay solvent.
Whoa.
Sorry.
I never heard of bail-in. My goodness.
Dodd-Frank. That's the act, right? That's when the Federal Reserve were like, we're never bailing them out again, right? We create like regulation. There will never be a bailout. And so the way that the banks essentially just kind of wiggled out of it was, in fine print, creating a bail-in.
Wow.
Yeah. Unsecured creditors essentially is what our money isn't really ours. We're kind of like a shareholder of the number in the account. It's wild, right? So,
Wow.
I mean, and we're seeing it across the world, right? Like there's a run on banks in China, right? Banks are closing randomly,
Bank of England. What, Bank of England today or something too? My goodness. Yeah. Okay. We're going to take a pause here, guys. Have some water. So I want to make sure, because I've seen some question marks. I'm just paying attention to Bianca. But if you guys have questions, put them in the question box so we can get to them at the end, because we won't be able to find them when we scroll back up. Like what to buy, who do I get from, what do I do now? We're going to segue into this now, the present moment and the future, what you can do. So take a deep breath, get some water. We're going to go second part of this, because this is what she's breaking down, what we're breaking down for you is what years and years of basic education would not even scratch the surface in teaching you. And she's done this for years. I've learned this over the years. So if this feels like a lot and you feel behind or you feel anxious, you're okay. You're good. Right? There's 7 billion people on this earth that really are still waking up to this. We're still early, so just want to remind people that, because sometimes I can feel it on calls and on Zoom calls and IG lives, just to take a deep breath. So, all right, let's transition now, present moment. So we did some history. We talked about, where money came from briefly, gold standard, a couple other dates, the cycles that have occurred. Now we're here in the present moment. It's 2022, and people are watching this for the first time. What should I do? Do I need to read first? Should I start buying? Do I sell my 401k? And I know this is not financial advice. We're not financial advisors. This is just lenses you can take, and the first part is education. So answer, what is your lens on what are some, like in this moment today, like what are some things people can start doing to feel a little bit more confident not if, guys, it's when and as. There's no if with this. It's when shit hits the fan and this whole thing goes tumbling down. So, because I know one of the first things you told me was the difference between numismatic and bullion. Oh, yeah. And that was a huge one, because I was buying silver from a online dealer, and I told Bianca, and she just said, hold on. Let me explain to you something. So maybe we'll just start with that, and you can give people just what you told me when I first met you. I think that would be a good little lens for people.
Absolutely. So yeah, great. It was a great first encounter. I'd actually been following Chris for, I want to say 2 years, before that. One of my good friends from high school, Taylor, was like, hey, I know you're a hippie, and I know you're conservative, so I think you're going to like this guy. And then all of it was just dynamite content. But yeah, I think you'd just posted the delivery that you'd gotten, maybe like a gold bar, gold silver bar. So I slid in the DM, and I was like, hey, we probably shouldn't post our treasure just because it's a safety issue, just a little, informative tip, right? But then, I kind of just approached and was like, I'd love to, talk to you about this. This is what I do. I don't think anyone has ever really even heard of a personal gold and silver dealer. But yeah, just, breaking open the conversation, breaking the ice. And the numismatic bullion, that conversation, of course, we'll get into it. I don't like to confuse people too much, right? Because it's such a world, you can get into the coins that are millions and millions of dollars, right? As far as basics, there is, the tried and true things that I stick with, I stack, right? I suggest that people stack. I definitely favor US American minted products, right? There's just authenticity, verification, reputability that that backs, you know, American products, ethical gold, right? That's important if you, you know, if you want to make sure that your metals aren't being sourced in Peru, where there aren't really, you know, human rights and labor protections, things like that, where they don't really care about what it takes to get the gold. Let's just say that, right? Yeah, certain reasons why I gravitate to, you know, certain coins, certain products, things like that. But yeah, you know, that's definitely what calls are for, right? I kind of hold people's hand through the whole process, which is not something you're really going to see, I guess, out there in the world, right? Gold and silver is very, it's a sales world, it's a money world, you know. You're typically going to get someone on the phone who's like, are you ready to spend your money or not? Right? So yeah, more of a breakdown with me. And yeah, I mean, as far as numismatics, right, I think my best analogy is like a Kobe card, right, a basketball card. You know, let's say it's kind of morbid, right, but numismatics are kind of very concentrated on current events, right, like as morbid as humans are, catastrophic events sometimes, right, like 9/11 coins.
Yeah.
Sold like through, right, it's memorabilia, it's a piece of history.
Yeah.
And yeah, right, so as far as numismatics, like think of you know, if you were 8 and you got, you know, a Kobe card out of a pack, right, the day before, you know, that tragic day, you know, of him and Gianna, you know, Kobe cards would have been what, $3, $10, nothing crazy, right? The day after, all of his memorabilia, all of his jerseys, shoes, everything, thousands of dollars, right? So what happened there? What makes something go from normal, generic, right, to numismatic, having numismatic value, to having collector's value above its original content, right? That's essentially what numismatic is, right?
Got it.
It's in the world of coins, it's dependent on rarity, scarcity, condition, right? Just think, how hard is it to keep a 200-year-old coin? First of all, in your family, and then no one touching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How hard would it have been for you to be 8 and not touch the Kobe card?
Yeah.
Right, mint condition, signed, right? The more specifications, the more rare, right? So yeah, the world of numismatics is, you know, that's the investment side of it. You know, bullion is just, it's kind of what I call like barter chips. You know, great to have to stack. Also investment, you know, investment asset. Just kind of two classes of the same world.
Sure. What's gold and silver at today for people who have no clue, like don't even check the markets? Like, what is it? Because I remember even silver, when you told me the price, I was like, why does that seem so low?
$18.
And you're like, it should be this. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. Oh,
how would nobody knows this?
Yeah, exactly, right? So the manipulation is very deep, it's very hidden, it's very subtle. But think back to those two computers at JP Morgan trading 2 billion trades, right, at $11, trying to tamp it down. You know, that's essentially, it's just, you know, the paper market versus the physical market, right?
Yes.
You know, that's the bluff essentially that banks, whoever is running this manipulation, wants essentially people. They want us to think it's worthless. They're like, oh, how dare you invest? Look at how worthless silver is. How worthless, right? That's essentially the lies being sold to us. But, you know, everyone who's kind of come into the knowledge what silver is as far as an element, how industrial, technical, right? And it's a very technological world that we live in even. Yeah, it seems to be important. Right? We bet it's worth more. That's what we bet. So yeah, as you know, in simple terms, that's essentially what investing, right? Buying, converting your cash to metal is essentially even, right, the paper dollars. And I want to conduct commerce in that.
Yeah.
I want to hold a real asset. Thank you. Right? If we can't exactly change our reality, right? Not everyone can make their boss pay them in silver and gold.
Yeah.
Right? We can't necessarily do that, but we have the autonomy to decide what our wealth at least is held in, right? Am I going to hold it in the bank as a number?
Yep.
An account? And now she just said that I'm unsecured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And then they'll go ahead and close your accounts and all these different things. Someone in the comments said, "My precious," like the Lord of the Rings. Like, it's your precious, guys. That is your precious. That's a good way to put it. Well, I want to get to this last part where we get in some questions because time's already flying by. Yeah. So again, guys, Hidden Secrets of Money, parts 1 through 10. I think that's what she sent me, and that's how I learned everything.
Yes.
And then if you guys have interest I'm going to post this after too, because I want to get to where we're heading, and then questions if we have time. You can schedule a call with Bianca. You can go to her website. You can DM her. She's got a Discord channel. She'll get on the call with you. She'll walk your hand. She's incredible. She's helped tons of people I've sent her way. So yeah, that's your best resource. You can ask her things, and then she can show you how to get set up, even if it's little baby steps. Like, you don't have to have 100K to invest in this. Like, it's, guys, crumbs before you do the
you can get one coin.
Golly,
one coin.
Exactly.
However,
and it feels good. Like, it feels different. Like, the frequency is high. So reach out to her. And now what I want to just segue to this last part is where we're going and what predictions or whatever. And I do want to touch on, again, what has happened. And maybe I'll start this and you can carry on and finish it out. Is in 2017, when the Bank of International Settlement, right, which is located in Sweden, they declared something. And many people don't really know this word because they think you put on pasta. It's an Italian herb, yet it's called basil or basil, or is it basil, right? Is it basil? I say basil because and it's so funny. In our backyard garden, we have basil that is our biggest plant that is growing. Massive, like feet tall. And I'm like, that's the future system. So they declared this, guys. They declared precious metals like gold from a tier 3, which means having about 50% on your balance sheet, to a tier 1 asset. Means you got to have full 100% on your balance sheet in your vault in order to cooperate in our new financial system. This happened in 2017. Many of y'all missed it because a lot of people were just living their life. They were at the party. They didn't get ready for the hangover. And this happened. And when that did, you had countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the BRICS alliance, start buying copious amounts of gold. All these countries, Ireland, all of these different countries around the world are now buying gold, or they're letting out gold and discovering gold from their own economies and so forth. And that's what you're seeing happen today. There's like a level playing field, which is the dollar is free falling and these other economies are rising. And once we hit that midpoint, in my opinion, once we hit that level playing field, we'll make the jump to a whole new financial system, right? With a whole new financial system. So share your lens more in detail, like what's going to happen the rest of this year, next year, the next 5-10 years. Where do you see all of us going from everything you've learned and uncovered? It's always fun to see the big picture.
Yes. So, I'm a little nerd. I think it has so much more to do than just with, right, money, monetary, right? I think this has to do with demographics,
Yep.
I don't again like to play the prediction game. I don't give dates out, right? That's like trying to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
But I think that the clock was set in 2020, right? For me, 3 to 5 years it's going to take for things to really start shaking down. I feel like we've already seen certain countries go through. Venezuela was like one of the first. I believe it might have started in 2018, but in 2020, hyperinflated. And that's just a clear example of that cycle we were talking about, right? Essentially people don't, the people in charge, people who have the keys to the kingdom don't respect, the balance of the printer, and think that printing is going to solve, right? That's essentially what the Bank of England did today, is quantitative easing. So they are introducing paper, right, back into the economy. So printing their way out of problems, essentially. All good things come to an end, right? I believe the music will stop, and there will be a point where you can't print anymore. You know what I mean? Do I wish it? Like, do I wish Venezuela-style hyperinflation where, their currency is bolivars and it's like 1 million bolivars for a loaf of bread? Like, it's a very real thing. Like, civilizations have lived here before. Germany, right? Why more hyperinflation? That's in the history books, those wheelbarrows, kids, right? Pushing wheelbarrows of cash for a loaf of bread.
Yep.
Yeah, and this whole past 2.5 years for me has been a lot of preparation, a lot of spiritual alignment with getting back to natural, I guess, like the natural world, natural order, natural law, and yeah, not this, you know, kind of plastic world economy that we've lived in, or kind of just woke up in one day, because that's kind of how it feels. Or like, holy, one day I woke up and I could see what was going on, you know. So yeah, I mean, the first thing I urge, right, is protection, right? That's why I rattle off, you know, the history of gold and silver, like what they've done in the past, right? First of all, they have 6,000 years, right, of history. Since the Egyptians, you know, some of that gold is still here today for us to touch. It's wild, you know. So standing the test of time, durability, you know, all of the lists of what makes, you know, good characteristics of money, gold and silver fulfill it for me, right? I think the focus sometimes is too much on one standard, right? Gold standard, gold obviously being the king metal, right? Gold is like the king's money, silver is the people's money. I think it's going to be a bimetallic. It has to be both. There's not enough gold in the world for us to like truly conduct economies like that. But if we use both, they are abundant enough for us to actually conduct, you know, true markets, true commerce, true, you know, true sound money. But for me, you know, right, we've mined in this past 10 years, 20 years, we've mined more silver and gold than we ever have in the history of civilization.
Wow.
Right? Just with the technology, right? There's no more pick and axe. You know, we just have bulldozers, and it's down to a science. You move 100 tons of this, and you'll get, you know, you should output this, right?
Very
so
true.
it's pretty mathematical. I pay attention to really boring surveys, right? Global geological surveys. These like surveys of Earth. How much zinc and right, but metal is also included in that, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, what I'm seeing from these surveys, from these reports, are we can't find the metal. Right? What used to, you know, take this amount of energy, because it's all energy. How much energy we have to exert to find the metal, to refine it, right? That's why they're so beautiful to me. They're talismans, really, right, of all the effort exerted to refine to this one, you know, to this product. So yeah, sound money,
Beautiful.
right? That's the way for me, for people to know what it is, to know the difference between money and currency. And never forget, right? For the children, like they need to touch it, they need to know, so that, you know, we can never get enslaved again.
Absolutely. So good. And you said one really important word, hyperinflation, guys. That's when all of a sudden the world says, yeah, we're done with the dollar. You can have it back. And they all come back to our country. And now, like she said, like your gas is now $10 a gallon, $20 a gallon. And now you have Venezuela, which they use their own bolivars for fire starter, like just to stay warm. So this is prepare. This is not fear driven. We're giving you tools. We're giving you awareness. We're connecting these drops for you. And what I'll finish it off, because we'll do some questions here, last 5-10 minutes. You know, my lens with XRP, I know and all the different things that I've put together, what I'm seeing now is this BRICS alliance, with all them buying these precious metals, right? From copper, you sent me a copper coin, palladium, platinum, gold and silver are the forefront, guys. There's a lot of other commodities. There's a lot of other minerals, crystals, like these things are stores of value because, like she said, they're physical. Like we can actually give it to each other and so forth. And so what these countries are doing, they're stockpiling them, and they're also testing these digital currencies, which, if not moving assets because of Basel III, right? Because of Basel III, these banks that are going to be moving these assets using, it's called DLT, distributed ledger technology. And what fits that mold is this company right here. Okay. The coin that Bianca gave me too, my favorite. And they don't actually say it. They cannot disclose it. Every country in the world except US calls it a currency, which in my opinion, we're going to be bridging both, and we'll have physical metals. And also, instead of being able, you know, if Bianca was in Australia, I'm not going to send her $100,000 of silver bars. That would be absurd. So
It'll
I
never
would
land.
all right. I would be like, what the heck do I do? Like, I got to carry around getting a workout. I would send her a certain cryptocurrency that moves the value, and she could then go to her bank or her vault and get the silver if she wanted to have it because of the Basel III compliance. So that's why you guys I talk about XRP and these other ISO compliant currencies, because they will be in congruence with the commodities and precious metals backed. At the end of the day, though, this right here and everything else she's shared, it's a safe bet to protect you from the hangover humanity's going to experience. So we'll end it there. Again, we're going to do a couple questions. If you guys have questions, type it in the question box. Let's see, pull up the first one. Let's see. That was a long one. Let's see. What do you see as the future for silver overall? We know how undervalued and manipulated the price is. I'll read the rest. I worry it's still being undervalued going into precious metals because gold typically backs the money when it's done, even though silver is much more scarce. So I guess like the gold or silver, right? Gold or silver, gold or silver.
Yeah.
Silver is so low. And you've answered this question for me, but you can go ahead and repeat it again. If you guys have a question, ask it in the question box.
Yes. So like the question better, like which is better to have, always, even in metals diversification, right? It's just, to put it in math terms, let's say an ounce of gold right now is like $1,650, $1,700. How much, how many ounces of silver could you buy for that amount in comparison, right? So for me, someone mentioned here, right, the gold to silver ratio is the most important thing to pay attention to me, right? It's a signal for history, but in the investment aspect too, right, that's what I'm really watching. I'm trying to truly attain the king metal, right? The more scarce, the the less abundant, right? Gold is the more rare of the two, but I, plan to buy, quote unquote, my gold with my silver, right? There's always been a historical relation. Just to rattle a couple of facts off here, right? Gold to silver mining ratio, right? How much gold, in comparison to silver is mined is 1:8. Right? So there's 8 ounces of silver, let's say on Earth, to every 1 ounce of gold, right? The current price ratio, right, it's valuing 1 ounce of gold at around 100 ounces of silver, right? The historical average is like 10 to 15 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold, right? That's the exchange rate. The only exchange rate that matters, the true currency, right? Gold to silver. So when silver is doing poorly, 15 ounces of silver buys 1 ounce of gold. Right, when silver is doing well, 10 ounces buys 1 ounce of gold. Right, that's the true price, right, number. If they say it's $20 on paper, I look to the ratio, right? Let's see here. 70% of silver is a byproduct, right? So it's kind of an accident that people stumble upon silver. It's usually, with other metals, copper, zinc, and people don't know that the way that silver is mined too, gold it kind of grows or is found in veins, right? Gold you can vacuum off the ocean floor. It kind of just sits there to be discovered. Silver has to be refined. It's usually found with like arsenic, lead, very, very toxic chemicals. It has to be separated.
Wow.
Right? Even like on the energetic level, it takes more effort to produce the silver coin, even though gold is more rare. But, and for me, right, is it really more rare? Silver is the most technological, right, the most conductive, the most reflective metal on Earth, right? And I've watched the YouTube videos of how to extract gold and silver out of like chips, Bluetooth, right, things like that. And it's the silver that's used is on the welds. It's the tiniest amount of silver, right? But how many welds are there on circuit boards? It's everywhere, but it's too minuscule for it to be worth our effort to recycle, right? Gold, like 98% of the gold on Earth that's used is recycled. So we don't recycle it. We're consuming it. It's like a supply and demand question. Like, can we do that? Very simple math. Like, they can't find it, right? Coin shortage, the mint is having problems. All roads to me are leading to there's something going on, right? With silver especially, relatively, it's like, it is to me personally, right? More worth, right? More attainable, more acquirable, right? Than gold at the moment. And I can get gold for it, right? Before gold and silver become unobtainium, unaffordium. Because I do believe we'll see that in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Right? The price will discover, the price will realize, and we're going to see what's real, and then that will be the prices of houses. Are they going to be $2 million or 9,000 ounces of silver? maybe less, right? In 1964, I think an average like 1 acre house, 14,000 ounces of silver. So people just forgot to think in the terms of the metals, you know, and by design, truly, right? We don't touch it, we don't use it, we don't conduct commerce in it. But yeah, I think it's one of the most important elements, right, in the world. It's the, you know, linchpin to the financial system.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
cool. Okay. No, I know you can keep going on and on. Let's see what's on.
Stop me at any moment.
No, you're good. So would Peru manufactured gold, would it be worth less than USA, or is it just a matter of ethics and the actual value is the same?
Oh, gold is gold, right? You know, by the time it unless it was marked, could you tell if they boiled it down, if they melted the gold, right, smelted it down, produced something else? Could you tell that it came from, you know, from Peru, from an unethical place? That's a personal question, I think. You know, there's a reason. That's why I love America, because we, you know, we have labor protections. There's a way to do things, and we can kind of rest easy that, you know, it's all done ethically. But yeah, I mean, that's just how important the metal is right now. Peru probably going crazy, Africa going crazy right now mining, and yeah, we probably know that the conditions aren't the best. There's no such thing as an 8-hour workday. Yeah. You know, no PPE, nothing to protect the body. So yes, you know, and we're home, we're here, right? We're in America. It's just easiest to.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, that was it. There was one other one. Oh, here on. Oh, here you go. This is a good question, actually. Once purchased, how best is it to keep it safe? Like, what's the best way to keep it safe?
Yes. I always suggest a home safe. You know, you're going to be surprised how quickly you can fill it. You're going to need a bigger one. But, you know, of course, that's the idea. But, you know, another option, of course, is a depository. Certain banks, it has to be a bank specifically with a depository on location. It's like a vault. So BRICS Bank is you know, a location that does do some depositories. The biggest, baddest one is the Delaware Depository. That's where, let's say, Jamie Dimon stores his silver, right? He has 1 billion ounces of silver. Just to his own name. 1 billion, Chris.
Jamie Dimon's the CEO of JP Chase, y'all, if you don't know who that is. Of course, his last name sounds like a diamond. That's true. How much?
1 billion ounces of silver. 1 billion.
They say he probably doesn't know anything that's happening. And even his metals guy is under lawsuit. Like, isn't he about to go to, like, didn't that all happen? Then they have lawsuits or something with
spoofing. Oh, JP Morgan has been sued for spoofing plenty of times. So spoofing is manipulating the precious metals prices, precious metals market.
So this is happening, guys.
Yeah, banks, they're the number one, right? They don't want us to know. Nobody's
and the original banks in the Hidden Secrets of Money, which will wrap this up, the original banks just was meant to hold like a vault. It was just meant to hold. Bank of deposit.
Right.
Now it's certificate of deposit.
Yes.
You guys see it? CDs. Your parents like, oh, go get a CD.
Now they're banks of numbers and accounts, Chris. It's banks of numbers.
Left brain.
Because the number says it's there, you know. It's a wild thing to me. It's so meta sometimes when I really think about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to, you know, connect with people like you, like have a platform for us to discuss these things and just get people in the know, because it's important, right? It's a window and it closes, and yeah, right. We're early, we're right on time, but yes, only action. Right?
Only action, right? Well, here's a perfect question. If it were you, would you get out of your 401k and buy silver and gold?
Good question. So IRAs, right, 401k, TSPs, these retirement funds and accounts, you know, I believe like 98% of them are mutual funds. In economic downturns, I want to even say crashes, right? Economic downturns, mutual funds are the hardest, right, to sell, to get out of. You know, personal testimony. I know someone who, you know, associate of mine, he's a client, right? $1.7 million in his retirement account, right? Called his custodian, wanted to move some over into metals. Custodian sold his account, right? And I think it's illegal. And I'm not gonna even name drop the custodian. I don't want to get in trouble. But this is a big account, right? $2 million is not, chump change. And he was getting the runaround. Let's say you had like $50,000, $10,000 in it. Do you think they'd give us the time of day if they're already giving someone with a $2 million retirement account
right.
runaround? So yeah, I just, in my experience, the banks aren't our friends, especially not in crashes, right?
No.
What did they do in 2008? The first things banks did in 2008 was stop ATMs. Couldn't pull cash out. Right? They didn't want all the, right? That's what a bank run is. They don't want all the cash getting pulled out of their accounts.
Yeah.
Because
and we've been getting glimpses of that. Like China, there was bank runs. There's bank runs like Canada. And if you guys aren't paying attention because you're on TikTok or watching sports or Netflix, this shit is happening. And that's why I'm saying a lot of people are going to have this hangover and say, no one told me.
Well, and
you're so used to people. Yeah, nobody's going to warn you. Nobody's going to come save you.
It's going to be like, hey, by the way, tomorrow we're closing all my shit now. No one's going to tell us, right?
You've got to be prepared. That's why we want to do this. Not to, like, if we wanted to scare you, we would just tell you everything that's wrong and shitty and end the live and say good luck. But we're here educating you, informing you, reminding you to breathe, giving you calls to actions, places to start learning. And if you can do this, guys, like she said, this is the greatest generation. This is the greatest wealth transfer that's happened in humanity since the beginning. I know ifs, ands, or buts. And where we're headed is a beautiful timeline. It's also going to be very ugly for a lot of people who have kept their mind closed, don't want to take an hour of their time to learn, don't want to reach out or ask questions, and it's going to bite. It's going to slap you in the face. It's going to slap you in the face.
So the 401k question, I'm biased, but I'm going to say, get the fucking money out of the bank, right? There's stipulations with 401ks. If whoever asked that wants to get on a call, I'll out everything they know about retirement accounts. But yeah, I mean, I just think the time is nigh, right? The game is afoot, and history tells us 20% of metals, right? 20% in your portfolio metals, 10 in gold, 10 in silver. That saved people in 2008. In 2008, people got cut in half. That means 50%. You had $100,000 net worth. Actually, it's 50, right? People got cut in half.
Just like that.
Overnight. No warning.
Just like that, guys. Imagine waking up and that's what you're reading with your coffee and toast. Oh my goodness. All right, last question, because I got to wrap this, and I got another call here. Purchasing silver and gold internationally. Like, how do people do that? Because I know someone just said Canada. I know I have a lot of followers all over the world, that's why this platform is amazing. Last question, and then we'll wrap it. Last question.
Absolutely. So US and Canada, you can probably buy from anyone in the US. I'm definitely a dealer. Let's say you're somewhere else like Britain, Europe. They're called sovereign, and I know this is perfect for everything that Chris does, his whole world, right? They're called sovereign mints. It's like a government mint. So Canada has one, right? It's called the Royal Canadian Mint. Britain has one. It's called the Royal Mint. Australia is the Australian Mint. South Africa, right? Usually major countries, right? If you have pretty established government, you have a way to purchase coins, gold, silver, bullion, in your country. So, if you don't know, if you need help looking it up, definitely just reach out. I'll easily do the research. But yeah, you're looking for, a government or sovereign mint, right? Not any private mint, because there are things such as private mints, but I would stick to the coins and bullion.
Perfect. There you go, guys. All right, there you have it. Thank you. Last thing, too, tell everybody one more time. So Miss Numismatics, it's pinned. You guys can give her a follow. You can shoot her a DM. She's got millennialmetals.com. You also have you said a YouTube channel. Yeah. What are all the ways again? How do you want people to get a hold of you?
YouTube. I haven't really posted anything quite yet on there.
Okay.
But yeah, the main things are my website. That's where, I obviously have gold and silver charts, some information, all the different, links and plugs there.
Yep.
My Discord, that is what Millennial Metals is. If you want to, join a community, precious metals enthusiast, I have mentors in there as well. We do weekly calls where we just talk about, the market, any updates that we see. That's a really great place to connect, ask questions.
And then you got a Calendly, right? People, where do they find your Calendly? Can they go to your Instagram?
It's on my Instagram. It's on my website as well. It's the first link at the very top.
There you
it's
guys
like
go.
or something, and yeah.
There you go. Beautiful, guys. Well, there you go. Give her some love. Because yeah, all this stuff, you're hearing this for the first time. I heard it for the first time, whatever, years ago, and haven't looked back since. And it's just connected a lot of dots. So thank you for your time, your wisdom. I'll be hitting you up later off this too, and we'll reconnect. And yeah, thank everybody for joining. I'll post this. I'm gonna jump. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm gonna jump off, and then I'm gonna post this on my feed, and you guys can share that with people. Just get the word out and just let people know. Best is yet to come, and just make sure you're hydrated. So when the party ends and the hangover hits, you're the one that's waking up at 5 a.m. to go work out and live your life, and do the dang thing. So come out better with medals, y'all. That's what it's up.
That's right.
That's what's up.
Love it. Stay blessed.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks, B.
Bye.